What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Today, that glorious day is finally upon us. We have the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Barbarian class preview. Grab your great swords, everyone. It's time to cast them. If you guys are liking what you're seeing, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Helps out a whole lot. Real quick, this episode of your Pathfinder 2nd Edition preview content was brought to you in part by our newest patron, Benjamin DeBrick. My friend, thank you very much for joining up with the cause, and hey, check your Patreon inbox for your Discord notification. I'll talk to you in there, man. For now, let's dive in. Okay, so in Pathfinder 1st Edition, the Barbarian was definitely my favorite martial class. A giant D12 hit dice, an even more giant weapon to slam into somebody's face over and over again until they were dead, coupled with a lot of customization that we would see through things like totems, rage powers, even in a technical sense, some of the hybrid classes, the Scald and the Blood Rager, that did basically the same thing with a little more buffing flavor or draconic power flavor. The Barbarian is also one of the classes in Pathfinder to have received an Unchained variant. Personally, I prefer my Chained Barbarian, as the buff to strength comes out a little better versus a buff to damage if you're wielding a two-handed weapon most of the time. But the Unchained Barbarian was really great in and of the fact that your Barbarian wouldn't die to a horrible, terrible tragedy that kills barbarians everywhere in Pathfinder 1st Edition SBDS, or as we like to call it here, Sudden Barbarian Death Syndrome. That is to say, when the battle ends, your rage runs out, you spend 10 minutes recalculating your character sheet only to realize that, oh, all those hit points are gone and I'm very dead. And then your Barbarian just kind of explodes standing in place. I'm very curious to see how the Barbarian is going to function in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, though this YouTube channel, Black Dragon Gaming, is named after my Black Dragon disciple, my first ever RPG character. He was 3.5. My first ever Pathfinder character was an elf barbarian by the name of Two Moons, running around with a giant glaive, smacking people in the face, impaling them. They slide down the glaive really slow. It's awkward. Regardless, Two Moons is probably the first character I'm bringing back for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, followed closely by a rogue because, oh man, skills. Anywho, enough of me waxing poetic about being chaotic evil and whacking people in the face with a blunt or sometimes sharp object until they're very dead. Quote, when it came to barbarians in the playtest, we wanted to take the most popular parts of the original Barbarian and the Unchained Barbarian and brew them together with a few special ingredients to make the class even more flexible to fit even more role-playing and mechanical concepts. Rage is a Barbarian's key class feature. Barbarians aren't super trained in fancy weapons techniques like most of the other martial classes. Instead, a Barbarian can enter a rage that drastically increases her damage and grants her a significant booster shot of temporary hit points in exchange for a -1 penalty to AC and the inability to use concentrate actions unless they specifically have the rage trait. And on that note, the blog notes that somatic-only spells are now possible in a rage, so there you go, right there. If you want to build a Scald, it's built into the Barbarian, which I can get behind. Scalds are sweet. Unlike in Pathfinder 1st Edition, rage in the playtest is not limited in rounds per day. Well, let's be honest, in Pathfinder 1st Edition, our Barbarians never ran out of rage anyway once they'd gained a few levels. Yeah, that's mostly true. Sometimes you could in a long, grindy dungeon crawl or siege, or maybe my GMs and myself just do lots of long, grindy attrition-style campaigns that are really mean. I digress. A rage lasts 3 rounds, followed by a round of fatigue. While you're fatigued, you can't rage again, but once that round has passed, you can enter a new rage with a shiny brand new set of temporary hit points to go along with it. You can do this as often as you need during the day. Okay, so in a nutshell here, rage is becoming sort of a short cooldown kind of thing, like one might expect in an MMO like WoW. We turn it on for 3 rounds, we have it, then we're down for a round as the thing has a cooldown time, and then we turn it back on again. Of course, if someone in the party can remove that fatigue, and I imagine there will be some kind of ancestry feat a la Heart of the Fields, like in Pathfinder 1st Edition, that will allow us to do that ourselves. If nothing else, go cry to the cleric. They can allow us to just loop forever. It's a lot easier to mess with in-game than rounds of rage that mess with your entire character sheet, or having to track a total of rounds that you could be angry in a day before you couldn't be angry anymore. And thematically, I personally think it makes a little more sense. If I'm a Pathfinder 1st edition barbarian and I can rage for 10 rounds a day, does that mean after a minute I possess no longer a capability of being angry? I can no longer get mad at you. I am now a stoic, and I will hit you with my great sword a little nicer. It feels a little weird and it feels kind of video gamey, but thematically it makes more sense. I can get behind it. Next up on the chopping block today is Totems, and alongside the Totems we see the art of Amiri as she will appear in Pathfinder 2nd edition. Looking fierce, my dude. Anyway, quote, "Without a doubt, the most popular element of barbarians in Pathfinder 1st edition is the Totem, introduced in the Advanced Player's Guide. These totems are a set of 3 thematically linked abilities the barbarian can choose, starting at 2nd level. In the playtest, you get a totem right away at 1st level. Your totem is a representation of how and why you rage, and it grants you an initial ability, access to more totem feats down the line, and at 9th level, resistance equal to your constitution modifier against a specific type of damage." Ooh, that's kind of cool. It's not necessarily half damage from physical attacks a la the 5e barbarian, but if I can slap some DR on, especially if that's DR that I can maybe control a little bit as we go about the adventuring day. If I know I'm going to fight a bunch of dudes with swords, I'll set it to slashing. If it's dudes with spears, it'll go to piercings, etc., etc. I can get behind that. Each totem also has its own anathema, which we talked about over at the cleric video, and hey, if you haven't seen that playtest cleric yet, follow this card right up here, we'll get you caught up. Most of the barbarian's anathemas are relatively low impact and designed to create role-playing hooks. For instance, the giant totem's anathema states that you cannot fail to accept a personal challenge of your strength. Some, though, are stricter. The superstition totem requires that you never willingly accept the benefits of spells, but grants you some truly astounding anti-magic abilities in exchange. Okay, I can get behind this. Our totems help us roleplay around a class that really has a lot of roleplay to it, and I can get behind that, especially if they're low impact. I imagine a barbarian's fall from grace hurts a lot less than the paladin's, which is fine by me because the barbarian probably hurts harder than the paladin anyway when the barbarian flips his great sword over to the flat part and just kind of pounds you in the skull until you are dead. Anywho, moving forward. Quote, "Some of the totems, like Animal Totem, Giant Totem, and Dragon Totem, offer a few abilities that are flat-out magical. For instance, Animal Totem barbarians can adopt animal features and attacks and even transform into an animal, whereas Dragon Totem barbarians gain a dragon breath attack and can even grow wings." Now, this isn't flat bloodline arcana or bloodline abilities like the Blood Rager and the Draconic Totem line did exist in Pathfinder 1st edition, but that's not a bad way to represent the Draconic Blood Rager as you port him over to Pathfinder 2nd edition, though so far we aren't seeing things like spellcasting or bloodlines or anything like that, short of perhaps like dipping bard or sorcerer or wizard or something like that. Thematically, that's probably the best way to bring the Blood Rager into Pathfinder 1st edition. For those of you out there who don't want to commit to roleplay, the Fury Totem has no anathema or special requirements, and it focuses more on barbarian feats that aren't tied to anything. Now let's talk about some features. At level 3, the barbarians gain critical specialization effects when in a rage, even if they don't fulfill the usual proficiency rank requirement for the weapon, which is super strong because weapons in Pathfinder are, well and truly, super strong in 2nd edition. If you haven't caught up on that, follow this card right up here. Again, we'll get you caught up. We also see that in Pathfinder 2nd edition, the barbarian will still receive 12 hit points per level. In addition, barbarians don't have alignment requirements in the playtest. They can be whatever alignment they want, which is super great. And to be honest, I think this bodes well for the monk losing his lawful only. And hey, maybe even in the long run, maybe we'll let the reins up on the paladin a little, but we're not here to have that fight. We also see that barbarians have the best fortitude proficiency, and they gain the Juggernaut class feature at level 7, which grants them master proficiency in fortitude and the ability to count any success they roll as critical successes instead. We also see improved Juggernaut at level 13, which grants legendary proficiency and removes the chance of critically failing, so this is fortitude evasion. They also gain Indomitable Will at 15th level and become Masters in Will. At level 17, they get Tireless Rage, which allows them to ignore fatigue after ending a rage, though they still must wait that round before raging again. They also will be able to, as the blog puts it, rip through a chunk of resistances automatically at level 19 with Devastating Strike. At level 11, Barbarians get something called Mighty Rage, which lets them, whenever they enter their rage, immediately use one of their rage-only actions for free. Last but not least, let's check out some Barbarian Feats. In addition to the feats based on Totems, there are a variety of other feats available, from the bread and butter low-level Sudden Charge, to the devastating Whirlwind Strike, which lets you attack everything in your reach, Brutal Critical, your crits deal an extra die of damage as well as persistent bleed. Ooh, I like that. Vicious Evisceration, which allows you to maim your enemy, dealing extra damage, reducing its maximum HP by an amount equal to its level gross, and giving it a -1 penalty to its fortitude. Contagious Rage, which gives one of your allies the benefits and -1 penalty on AC imposed by your rage, but can still concentrate. So a little Scald-esque buff there. And Quaking Stomp, which allows you to stomp so hard that it creates an honest to goodness earthquake. The Superstition Totem also gets a feat known as Spell Sunder, which one imagines lets you sunder spells. Sounds super good. And yeah, that's what we see about the Barbarians in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. What do you guys think about these guys? Are you gonna miss having rounds of rage forever and ever and ever? And how do we feel about Anathema and the alignment restriction being taken away? Stuff like that. That feels pretty good, right? I think so too. And when I get a chance to play and not GM in the playtest, I'll definitely be playing again still, despite all this. First, an Elven Barbarian by the name of Two Moons, who's probably Animal Totem, because through the power of templates, he did become a were-tiger eventually. That's neither here nor there. Hopefully I get to play him at some point in Doomsday Dawn, the Pathfinder 2nd Edition playtest adventure, which I'm running right here on Black Dragon Gaming. I suppose I could also just be a PC GM, but that's no fun. 6 lucky subscribers will be taken through the adventure. To learn more about the giveaway, follow this card right up here. You guys have just under a month to get in. And remember, patronage at any tier grants you an extra entry in our giveaway. And hey, you know, if we can get Patreon up to about $300 a month, I'll take a second group through. But that's all we have today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Again, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of your Pathfinder 2nd Edition preview content drops this Saturday.